to do the public already. Except this meeting is being broadcast live. Okay, then you should be good. Good as soon as the clock turns over.
Good evening, everybody. It's 5:30 p.m. on February 14, 2024. My name is Jim Brewer. I'm the hearings officer for the city of Salem. Tonight we have one thing on the agenda. It's a consolidated application for a conditional use permit, Class 3 site plan review to establish new motor vehicle manufactured dwelling sales use in existing site. Subject properties are located at 4340 Commercial Street, Suite 110. I'm going to outline the procedures for tonight's hearing, and I have some other kind of legal requirements that we'll need to do, and then we'll move along to the hearing. In order for tonight's proceedings will be a staff report to be presented by Peter Domine, city planner. The applicant's presentation, we'll limit that to 15 minutes. A neighborhood report, if any, although I'm not seeing anyone here, that'll be limited to 10 minutes. They won't go to public testimony. I'm not seeing any members of the public present either of those who signed in earlier today. And if you're going to testify, we're going to ask you to give your name and address so that the recording picks it up. We would start with testimony in favor of the application, limited to 5 minutes, testimony in opposition, limited to 5 minutes, testimony that's neutral, limited to 5 minutes, and then rebuttal by the applicant, limited in scope to issues raised in opposition. We'd limit that to 5 minutes. At that point, we close the public hearing. I want to direct everyone's attention to the applicable criteria found in the notice. The testimony and the evidence for the public hearing must be directed towards these criteria, because those are the only things that are really relevant for the decision that I can make. Where the conditional use, Salem Revised Code 240.005 sub D states that an application for conditional use permit shall be granted if all of the following criteria are met. 1, the proposed use is allowed as conditional use in the zone. 2, the reasonably likely adverse impacts to use on the immediate neighborhood can be minimized with the imposition of conditions. And 3, the proposed use will be reasonably compatible with and have minimal impact on the livability or appropriate development of surrounding property. For the Class 3 site plan review, Salem Revised Code 220.005 sub F sub 3 states that an application for a Class 3 site plan review shall be granted if A, the application meets all the applicable standards of the UDC, B, the transportation system provides for the safe, orderly, and efficient circulation of traffic into and out of the proposed development. Negative impacts to the transportation system are mitigated adequately. C, parking areas and driveways are designed to facilitate safe and efficient movement of vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians. And D, the proposed development will be adequately served with city water, sewer, stormwater facilities, and other utilities appropriate to the nature of the development. This time we'd like to remind people failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the city or other parties the opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the state land use Board of Appeals based on that issue. So if there's a point that you need to make, this would be the time and place to do it, or you won't be too late. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages circuit court. So again, there's a problem with one of the conditions. This is the time to raise them, or you won't be able to later. I ask at this point if there are any objections on jurisdictional grounds. meaning that this isn't the sort of thing that ought to come to the hearings officer. Seeing any objections, this is CUSDR 24-01 for 4340 Commercial Street Southeast. The hearing is now open. We have the staff report, please.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Peter Dominy, planner to the Planning Division of the City of Salem. I'd like to enter into the record the staff report, all attachments, and this presentation for a conditional use permit and site plan review case number 24-01 for 4340 Commercial Street South.
And they are so injured.
The applicant, Tom D. Benedetto, on behalf of the Hertz Company, is requesting a conditional use permit to establish a new motor vehicle sales and services use within an existing tenant space on the subject property. The proposal is for a rental office for passenger vehicles only, operating during regular weekday business hours. No other new development or additions to the existing buildings or changes to the property are proposed, only the use within the existing building. The development site consists of two properties under common ownership totaling 1.32 acres in size, located within the urban service area of the city, with frontage and access off of Commercial Street Southeast. Here's an aerial image of the development site and surrounding area. This is the frontage and primary access off of Commercial Street Southeast, including existing pedestrian connection. And as you can see, there are two existing buildings on the development site in front and one located in the back. And in the rear of the property to the south is an additional off-street parking area on tax lot number 201, labeled parking area B on the site plan. The property is zoned MU3, mixed use, shown in light purple. Neighboring properties zoned RS to the east, shown in yellow, and property zoned RM2 multifamily residential to the north, shown in orange. And other properties zoned MU3 to the north, south, and west, and property zone MU1 mixed use in the darker purple across Commercial Street to the west. The MU3 zone generally allows a variety of retail and office uses, commercial services, and multiple family residential uses, and is intended to encourage infill development and redevelopment in mixed use corridors and centers, and promote pedestrian access along major streets such as Commercial Street. The neighboring RS and RM2 zone properties to the north and east are intended to allow for a mix of residential uses from single family detached dwellings to multiple family complexes. The development site consists of two existing buildings labeled Building 1 and Building 2 on the site plan, also found in the staff report as attachment B. The proposed car rental office will be located in an 1,800 square foot tenant space in Building 2 on the site plan, with parking for the rental cars proposed on the south lot, labeled parking area B. The site plan review process is intended to ensure that any new development, including establishment of a new use on a property, complies with the development standards of the zoning code. General standards include maximum building height and lot coverage allowances, setbacks, off-street parking, development standards, and landscaping requirements. This site plan review application is primarily to establish the motor vehicle sales and services used within the existing tenant space, and no other development or expansion or alterations to the existing buildings, vehicle use areas, or the property are proposed. The property complies with all site plan review criteria, With the exception of the parking lot located on tax lot 201 to the south, it will parking area be on the site plan. When the main property on tax lot 400 was developed in 2005, this parking area was not included in the building permit plans, and there's no permit history for it. There are an existing 37 off-street vehicle parking spaces on the main property and an additional 11 spaces on tax lot 201. While no new off-street parking spaces are required for the proposed use, the unpermitted lot cannot be used as proposed until permitted with its own site plan review and building permit approval. As such, staff recommends the condition that the off-street parking area on tax lot 201 not be used until permitted. With the recommended condition of approval, staff finds that the application is in compliance with the approval criteria for the site plan review. The proposed motor vehicle sales and services use is an allowed use in the MU3 zone with a conditional use permit. As found in the staff report, the proposed passenger vehicle rental office will have minimal adverse impacts on the immediate neighborhood, and the use will reasonably be compatible and have minimal impact on the livability of the surrounding areas. No concerns were raised with other public agencies. Notice of the application and public hearing was provided to the Morningside and Fayrite neighborhood associations, and no comments were received. One public comment from the owner and property manager of the apartments to the north was received. Comment generally indicated concerns regarding increased traffic and light affecting the tenants of the apartments. The proposal does not include the installation of any additional lighting, but staff recommends as a condition of approval, any additional lighting shall meet the development standards of SRC 800.060 and shall not shine or reflect onto the adjacent properties. Regarding traffic, the amount of average daily vehicle trips expected to the site does not require a traffic impact analysis and is expected to have minimal impact on the immediate area. However, to mitigate the impacts of the rental vehicles on the site, staff recommends as a condition of approval, the use be limited to 13 rental vehicles on the development site at a time as proposed by the applicant. Staff recommends that the hearings officer approve the conditional use permit and site plan review collective application subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
So I've got really one question. I think you've done a thorough job with this proposal. As I look at the language of condition 3, I understand the purpose, and I want to make sure that it says what we want it to say, so that we can be certain that the site does comply with the criteria. Prior to the use of the unpermitted vehicle use area on tax lot 2001, talking about parking area B on the site plan. And it's simply an area that has been, I want to say developed, but it has unpermitted, the lot has never received a permit for the lot that is there.
Correct.
Okay. So the development shall be approved of site plan review. I think I will probably reword that a little bit to say, prior to its use, that area, so prior to any use of the unpermitted vehicle use area on tax lot 2001, that area must receive site plan review approval. That work? And building permits and any other applicable permits as required by the Unified Development Code.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking this now is so that if the applicant has a problem with that condition, they can know what I'm thinking. So I'll probably do some rewording like that. I think the idea is pretty clear to me. The reason for it makes perfect sense. And I just want to make sure that the condition says what we're intending.
Understood.
Okay, okay, thank you. I am going to ask the applicant if the applicant would like to make a presentation.
I would like that.
Why don't you come up to the podium?
Oh, speak. Gene Blanky, 275 Court Street Northeast in Salem. Okay, thanks. And I just had a question. So the approval for the car rental will still go through even if this tax lot 201 is not permitted? Is that correct? I just
That's
want to
correct.
clarify. Okay,
That's correct.
okay. So they'll be able to proceed ahead, owner, permitting.
But you can't store cars on that area
That's right, yeah.
until it is a permitted lot.
Okay, perfect. That's all I need.
Okay,
Thanks for your great job.
okay. I don't know that got picked up, but it was a thanks, Peter. Great job. So I'm gonna very quickly kind of walk through, the room looks empty to me, but do we have anyone who wants to speak in favor? Do we have anyone who wants to, do we have any neighborhood representatives? Do we have anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Neutral. Don't get any chance for rebuttal if nobody talks, so that's to the applicant. Does the applicant waive the 7-day period to submit additional written argument? And I heard the word yes and a nod. So with that, the hearing is closed. I'm going to approve this with the conditions as recommended by staff. And we had a discussion about how I would likely reword the third condition, and I ought to have the decision in writing out within a week. So thank everybody. With that, we have nothing else on the agenda this evening, and our meeting is done.